I liked it. Lakshmi didn't say anything, but just turned her face away from him. Kalki got up and went to the horse. I see the pine trees, she said, coughing. We are close. That's great. Kalki glanced at her once again before they began drawing the horse to the main roads and began traveling towards the city. Silence had crept in between them. Kalki could see carts and bullocks, as well as people traveling to the city from other villages. But he also saw the city gates were adjacent to a long stone bridge, where well-built soldiers were reading from pieces of paper before letting anyone enter. What are they doing? Too. The security has been increased. But why? The Tiarvan he said. From afar, the city looked beautiful, larger than life, like a painting from a talented artist. It had variegated shades ranging from maroon to purple, with large buildings, forts, and roads crisscrossing the tapestry of livelihoods. It was too big for him to even grasp where it ended, for Indragarh looked like it ended only where the horizon did. Kalki had been to Indragarh when he was younger, but he subsequently declined to travel for he felt city life was not made for him. He was made for something far greater than the life in these lanes, crowded by the military and people from various ends of Illavarti. It was lethargy as well, for he felt a day's journey wasn't worth it. Unlike Arjun, who always wanted to explore the ends of education, for he knew education would be at its finest in the city, Kalki hindered himself with his lethargy. Oh God, she whimpered. What happened? It just dawned on me that I have to ask my aunt for a favor. We are really doing this. We really bloody are. She took deep breaths. I don't even know if she'll say yes. Don't worry. She will, once you make her understand the crisis. What if she doesn't? Kalki hadn't thought of that. What if? It was a big if which he struggled to not dwell over. Let's just worry about how to enter the city. As the horses slowed to merge with the foot traffic, they glanced at the people and creatures around them. It was weird for Kalki. He had heard about the Tiarvan but never seen them. He had heard how they looked, dangerous, stout and dark, but they were anything but that. Some of them seemed civilized and nice, but most of all they looked human. Only a name separated them from Manavs. How rumors can ruin a person's reputation. They reached the heavy gates, where chainmail-clad Nagas stood with swords fastened to their belt. Kalki was coming up, with all the believable excuses in his mind. When his turn arrived, the Naga who had long, matted hair asked Kalki, "What is your business?" "Ah well, we are supposed to drop off some gems for our uncle," lied Kalki in a very garbled accent. The Naga glanced at the other soldiers. "Your accent seems off. Where are you from?" "Two Shields, you must have heard of it, innit?" "Ah, number." The Naga was embarrassed. "Ah well, how would he? Kalki had just made it up. "I hope you let us get on with our business since we need to reach back by sunset." The Naga soldier waved him off. "Not happening till you show me a signed letter given by your village headman." Kalki noticed how the Naga accent was almost raspy like a snake. "A signed letter? My lady, do you have a signed letter?" Kalki looked at Lakshmi. "Ah, number. I suppose we don't have it then. We had sent a letter to every village in the Indragarh province that to enter the city, one must have permission from the headman, stamped in order. I don't think we got that damn letter." "Then I'm sorry you are not allowed to enter. Now get off the bridge and let the others come." Kalki clenched his fist. He could hear the rants and grumbles from the back for first cutting into the line and then taking so much time. He looked at Lakshmi gravely. "Just leave for your aunt as soon as I'm going to do what I'm going to do," he whispered. "What are you going to do? What's necessary? Distract them." He turned to the Naga. "Sorry for this." He began to use the cloth that was hanging at the back of his horse's straddle. He began to cover his face with it. "What?" the Naga asked. Kalki punched him in the face. It knocked him off. The crowd behind them gasped. The other Naga pulled out his sword as Kalki kicked at him, while seated atop the horse. The horse yelped and put its hooves in the air. Kalki realized that the Nagas from the gates were following him by getting on their horses and making their way through the thronging crowd. Kalki, in that moment of desperation, yelled at Lakshmi, "Go!" Kalki was now standing on the horse. He had crossed streets and bazaars, with the Nagas chasing him from all sides, and he knew that being in the city on a horse would lead to his eventual capture and then beheading, which he clearly didn't want. He wanted to jump over to a first-story building, hoping to escape from there. But it wasn't easy. As he was struggling to balance on the horse, a Naga appeared right next to his horse. He had a long sword aimed at Kalki. Kalki had been balancing on the back of the horse, which was moving really fast, but he noticed the fast thrusts being made with the long sword. "You are so dead, village boy." Kalki felt his feet were about to leave the horse. He decided to jump from it when he saw the perfect opportunity. What lay in front was a small bridge with a road that led underneath it to a short tunnel. And so he jumped, hoping he had made the correct calculations. With a sickening lurch, he threw himself on the ground and rolled over, the rough stones snagging at his cloak and ripping his clothes. Meanwhile, the Naga smacked his head against the side of the bridge, unable to control his momentum. "Take that," Kalki grinned. But he realized more horses were coming on his way. He sprinted away from the bazaar where most people were, as he made his way to the lanes where the clothes were being hung. The horses at the back stopped, and the Nagas followed on foot. Kalki grabbed hold of the walls, jumping across windows and doors, ascending with each jump. As he reached the top, he realized the Nagas were still behind him, though they had fallen significantly behind. At the top of a three-story building, he found himself cornered again, as Nagas from each end started towards him. He saw a rope that had washed clothes hung on it. He grabbed it and began to make a loop out of it as the Nagas struggled to reach him. He reached the far end of the parapet and tossed the loop across the building. He saw people were watching him from downstairs. The loop didn't catch anything concrete. He tried again, but by this time, the soldiers had appeared close to him with their swords drawn out. He threw the loop once again, and it didn't reach the other end, but fell down on the road. "Damn, you cannot get away now, imposter." That's when he realized the rope had tugged back hard, as if it had grabbed onto something. He saw there was a chariot below him. "You wish," laughed Kalki as he leapt from the three-story building, and on the top of the chariot, until he crashed inside. In the midst of the broken wood and dust, he saw a woman with makeup and expensive clothes. She was probably a noblewoman. "Hello there, sorry to disturb you. Who are you?" "I'm not a robber, don't worry." He heard the soldiers' cries from behind. "But I need to steal this, so if you don't mind." The lady was still stunned until she gathered her wits and began to yell. Kalki came forward, grabbing the lashes of the three-horsed chariot. It wasn't really big, but it would be fast. He slapped the whip over the horse, and it rushed forward. "Yeah," he smiled as the horses raced in the midst of the bazaars, destroying most of it, passing by the shops as well as the soldiers. He saw there were Nagas on each end trying to catch up to him. They jumped from the horse and onto the chariot. With the whip he had for the horse, he used it on them. One soldier even managed to sit next to him, trying to take control over the reins, but Kalki didn't allow it. He punched him in his side, dodged the sword, and then pushed him off the chariot as he rolled over the ground. Kalki held of the reins and then crashed the chariot to the building by the side. From there, he jumped down, rolling towards the river that ran inside the city. The chariot kept moving, and the Nagas kept following it without realizing he had dodged them. Kalki triumphantly preened as he walked inside the gully, when he realized he had no idea where to go now. He removed his face mask and tossed the cloak away. He came on the main road now, As he saw the chariot he was moving on had been stopped by the Naga soldiers, who were trying to find where he had disappeared. Kalki stood in the huddle of people who had crowded around this scene. Naga soldiers were coming around, asking each member of the city that stood there whether they have seen a masked man. One Naga came up to Kalki with a frantic look on his face, his blue eyes shimmering with intensity. Have you seen a figure with a black cloak and a turban-covered face? Cloak? Kalki shook his head innocently. Sorry, no, I have not.